Welcome to the Football Guys Dynasty Show. It is me, Jagger Maye, and with us, as always, is our Dynasty captain, Jeff Bell. And then we brought over from our flagship show, or I guess the Audible technically is, but the regular boring redraft guys, Alfredo. We brought him here to his roots, where he started, where his journey began. This is home for you, Alfredo. Welcome home. And we are going to talk about the preseason. We're going to break it down. We're going to talk about the risers and fallers. We had a couple. We've already kind of broke down some of them, and I went through keep trade cut guys, and I actually looked at real like the real like biggest fallers, biggest risers if they dropped more than 20 points, and it's or excuse me 20 positions, and it's pretty crazy. Big riser, and this is more just me being 100% biased, but I think we're done with the Drake May's not very good, and blah blah. He might not even start. Joe Milton. You remember that week, guys? Remember Joe Milton week?
Joe
That was
Milton Day.
wild.
Yeah, Joe
Yeah,
Milton
Joe Milton
Day.
Day. It will be
I don't
ever.
acknowledge that holiday or that week or whatever the hell happened. Yeah, I didn't acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. I told everyone you're being silly. Like Dave,
Yeah,
he asked me, he's like, you have to be excited to have Joe Milton. I'm like, if
no.
he doesn't get cut, cool. You know.
Yeah. What are we doing?
I think
Yeah.
my favorite thing that I saw was somebody said Joe Milton is the best at a sport that hasn't been invented yet.
Yeah. It's like
Joe
my
Milton
big.
would be like really good at high lie or one of those off-brand sports, something that like would be on ESPN 8, the Ocho. This is not a guy that needs to be playing quarterback in the NFL.
Or maybe Olympian. Like I was like, dude, put a javelin in this dude's hand. Put a javelin. Let's see what he does. You know, it's. With that being said, Drake May guys. They haven't announced a starter. Gerard Mayo has been. He's gone from being like Dennis Allen about who's a quarterback. Well, Drake May, he's got to prove himself. He's third string. And then now he's basically saying Drake May played better because we all watched the same game of football. And you can no longer get away with saying that Jacoby Brissett has been better. So with that being said, we know what he is. He's QB 17. Football Guys is think around that QB 16. We'll have a nice, pretty graphic up there once I get all that data put in, guys. Love you. We keep it casual here. Sorry, Alfredo. What do you think his actual regular season is going to look like? His right now, his redraft price, because we got a redraft host on here. So Alfredo, we'll start with you. What are your expectations for Drake May, and more importantly, the rest of the offense going forward for the rest of the season?
I mean, man, it's hard not to get excited with how good he's looked here in the preseason. I think what a lot of people, or too many people, I guess, discounted was his rushing ability. And we've been able to see that in the preseason. And it's not just that he's doing it or that he's not afraid to go and run. It's actually how fast he is on the field. There was a play where I saw him just escape up the middle, right through the defensive line when there was a big gap in the defense. And I had to double check that the film was not sped up or anything because he was actually so much faster than I remember from his college game film. This is a guy that he wasn't too far off in rushing yards from Jaden Daniels. He was a little bit ahead of Caleb Williams. Like, this is a guy that I think all the Josh Allen comps, sorry, Jeff, that I think they were warranted for a lot of that time when he was coming out of college. And so I'm pretty excited for him. When it comes to redraft, I don't know that I'm going to be drafting him a ton. I do have him sort of around that quarterback 26, 27 range. I do think like he kind of falls along the same line as guys like Will Levis, Sam Darnold in that area. So if it's a 2 quarterback league, sure, I'm taking a shot on him. And that ranking might continue to go up, especially if Jacoby Brissett is not going to be ready for week 1 and Drake May is the starter. I don't think he gives that up once he starts playing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. And it's like one thing I think where I'm like at least leaning on him in Dynasty, where I'll look at a roster. If Drake May's my QB2 and I have a solid QB1, I'm like, okay, let's rally. I'll be able to compete because QBs do have that safe floor. But what you made an excellent point, it's his rushing floor. And that's something that a lot of people really discounted. And when you actually see it, I'm like, I'll tell you guys, like spoilers, I've been scouting the 2025 class. Drake May is a pretty fast like quarterback. He's not Jaden Daniels, he's not Anthony Richardson, but the dude can scoot. So, especially when you have the offensive line that the Patriots have, which I think is going to be what holds them back. It's not even, people talk about the receivers. The receivers are young, and I think someone could take a step forward. It's the offensive line that's going to hold this team down. But I think that him being mobile adds something. Jeff, we've kind of always already talked about this, that Demario Douglas is going to be like the guy to own. Well, let's say that we might not want any of the pass catchers. Jalen Polk might be something. He might be a guy that might pop off in best ball, but you're never going to feel confident starting him, at least for now. But do you think that Drake May gives this opportunity over this offense opportunity overall for more scoring opportunities? More importantly, in Alex Van Pelt's offense, do you think Ramondre Stevenson might get a little bit of a bump here?
Well, yes, I think that Drake May is a better football player than Jacoby Brissett, which is big. I mean, congratulations, Patriots fans. You've got a rookie that's better than Jacoby Brissett. But I think that that's been proven definitively. And so hopefully Gerard Mayo goes in that direction. I don't know. It's one of those that if he's that much better, you're going to lose the locker room if you don't go in that direction. And so that's, I think, the pressure is going to mount over the next week and a half before that game comes. Does he raises the ceiling in terms of, like Alfredo mentioned, like you've mentioned, his ability to extend plays. The player that he reminds me a little bit of right now is Daniel Jones. When you look at Daniel Jones as a rookie, he kind of came in and he was more athletic than people expected. There was a lot of verticality in his game when he was very early in his career, before he kind of got a lot of things beaten out of him, unfortunately. That's kind of where I see May relative to versus kind of Josh Allen. Josh Allen was always a little bit more of a force of nature, I believe, than Drake May has in him. But at the same time, yes, I think when you look at Drake May, when you look at Bo Nix, these young quarterbacks at the back end of rookie ranks right now, or quarterback ranks right now, one of them is going to emerge more likely than not, just like how we saw CJ Stroud last year.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Like, and I like what you said about CJ Stroud because, like, again, living on the internet, I saw a good tweet that we did what we, and I'm not saying he's going to have a CJ Stroud like season, but I think in a lot of ways we kind of did the same thing what we did with CJ Stroud, where we picked something and we said, I don't like this guy. Like we said, well, he's a Patriot. This guy sucks now. And I know some people, they made like a random, they found a clip and they're like, see this bad play by a 19-year-old? He sucks. Like it just,
I mean, I said that on this show 6 months ago when we were doing
yeah.
rookie content. I said it's the same situation where we have a very talented player that we've just nitpicked to death because we were really excited about him coming in, compared to Caleb Williams and compared to the rise of Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. So I think the buy window's firmly shut if there was one, like because like Drake May, I think we always joke about this on the show, is that the guy who values him the most probably already has him in your league. It's just like DJ Moore, whatever. Like if I'm in a league with Drake May and I had a top 5 pick, he's on my team. Unless I needed something else, I probably had Drake May. I'm a Patriots fan. I was a Drake May fan before the Patriots even got him. There's just zero way I'm going to give him to you. Out of principle, I'll probably be irrational about it because I'm just like you guys. I'm a person. So that being said, that's enough Patriots talk because my other wonderful co-hosts here are AFC East fans of other teams, and they hate the Patriots. We'll pay some bills real quick, and then if you guys like this content, we're about to move to 3 shows a week for you guys. We're gonna have a show like this where we talk about the week before. Then we're gonna have a trade show because we've looked at the data. Alfredo was in the lab. He had his coat on and some safety glasses, and he said that you guys like buy and sell. You like trades because that's what we are in Dynasty. We're going to have a special trade show because you're our special people, and then we're going to have another of our regular sicko shows that'll probably just be me and Jeff. Maybe we'll be a guest. Like I said, we keep it casual here, and we fly on a whim. Also, go to footballguys.com/plans. And make sure to use our draft sync, guys, because we got that up and running. People are doing drafts now, especially if you're on MFL, you sickos, you Dynasty guys. You can do drafts on there right now that is way more intuitive than it is using MFL. And with that being said, guys, about the trade show, I'm going to start pulling trades from the comments only. Start putting your trades right now. Go put your trades in the comments. Say, I got A for B. Make sure to tell me format. Make sure to tell me scoring. Give me all the information. Make sure to tell me this guy's a Patriots fan, so he overpaid for Drake May. Give me all that context, and we might just post your trade on the trade show. Anyway, gentlemen, back to it. I know this is crazy to have him on here, and it's crazy because it is Dynasty and we don't have gut reactions, but Bijan Robinson. I know he's still RB1, guys. I'm not saying he's not the RB1, but maybe he's not ranked as highly overall amongst other assets. Let's say like some of these receivers that you may pass on because it's Bijan, or maybe you're not willing to overpay for him now because you want him to win because it's Bijan, man. Watch the tape. So, Jeff, we'll start to you. Do you think that there's gonna be a buy window that opens up for Bijan Robinson for these people that think I'm gonna win with him? So maybe I should sell him because I have bad receivers or something, and I have this trade chip. Do you think that may open up?
I think we're in it if it is. I mean, we're kind of in a similar scenario like we saw, when Jamar Chase couldn't pick up the stripes on a ball like that, or needed the stripes on a ball to be able to catch a ball. Like those types of things, those fake narratives in the offseason, because Bijan Robinson is excellent. Bijan Robinson is very, very good. He is in a much, much better offense. The biggest keys so the talk about that has been the addition of Tyler Algier, the presence of Tyler Algier. When you really look at it, my expectation from covering the Falcons for Football Guys camp reports that we've done, like kind of like the Lions, but like not quite, where like Bijan is the souped up version of Jahmyr Gibbs and also probably has goal line work. And then Algier is probably like an 800-ish yard rushing back who catches a couple balls. That's where I expect it. It's not going to be the Christian McCaffrey that I think people were hoping for Bijan, and that's what your knee-jerk reaction's coming off right now. But I mean, the ceiling is so low on running back 4 that Bijan Robinson could easily be running back 3, running back 2, even in that type of scenario.
Yeah, and Alfredo, do you think people are going to be disappointed that he's not the RB1? Like again, it's like incredibly high expectations. People think CMC.
Yeah, I mean, he still very well could end up being the RB1 this season, and we obviously don't know. It's just you start to look through the running backs, whether it's dynasty or redraft, and which running back doesn't have someone that's stealing receptions or stealing goal line work. I mean, just go down the list. Bijan's got Tyler Algier. Breece Hall has Aaron Rodgers, who's going to be gone soon, and then Garrett Wilson and all the passing attack. They also drafted 2 running backs as well, Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis. Jahmyr Gibbs has David Montgomery, and you can just keep going down the list. Jonathan Taylor's got Anthony Richardson. Like, let's keep going. So I think that when you get to this point, it's honestly, especially with running backs, it's just kind of about managing your expectations and deciding whether or not you're in that win now window. If you are in that win now window, cool. Keep Bijan or trade for Bijan, whatever it might be. I do think that we are probably going to have one of those small panic windows. Week 2, Tyler Algier gets 2 touchdowns and Bijan gets 0 touchdowns and ends up with like a 13-point game. And people are going to be crapping their pants, trying to sell Bijan, saying he's not the RB1 in Dynasty anymore. And there's probably going to be a few little freakouts. But if I've learned anything from my co-host Dave Kluge, it's to embrace the volatility in fantasy football and especially in Dynasty. If you're going to be in it for the long haul, be prepared to embrace the volatility because all the best players are going to have their highs and lows.
Yeah, you nailed it. Because like the real answer, guys, is like stop letting other people getting fed affect you. It's just like we've turned into people that's like, well, this guy had success. Well, why? Like, what about me? But we're doing that with our dynasty assets. Tyler Algier's going to get points, and Tyler Algier should be rostered. And if like, especially if you're a ZR running back guy or you need some depth, go get Tyler Algier. Don't let that affect your Bijan ranking whatsoever. Because like newsflash, folks. They don't want CMC to have that many carries either. You know who else is a vulture for CMC? Have you heard about Debo? Have you heard about this guy, Jordan Mason, that we've been talking about on this show? Teams don't want their running back to get 1,000 carries like you think. And I'm talking about the metaphorical 1,000. It's really like people think, well, I want a guy that gets 25 carries. It's not the 90s anymore, folks. It's a new day and age. We want our players to live. With that being said, we'll go to our next riser. And Alfredo, I'll kick it back to you because Dynasty, we get bored here. And something happens, and then you'll go on sleeper, and then you'll see, well, this player is like the top trending player. That doesn't mean that you should be rostered or building your whole life around him and then counting your winnings already. But Dyami Brown for the Washington Redskins, he's wide receiver 80 on Keep Trade Cut. He is their biggest riser. He's risen 500 points. Which jumped him up almost 20 spots to wide receiver 80, folks. He went from nothing to wide receiver 80 on football.
What was he before? Wide receiver 368?
We forgot he was a person because out of the 334 players on Football Guys, he's not being ranked, guys. So we're updating them right now. We talked about it. I still don't think we may rank him that high. I think that's the question. I'm not trying to spoil it. I'll let you talk, Alfredo. What do you think about Dyami Brown?
I think it's less of what I think about Dyami Brown and what I think about the Commanders' offense and what I think
Uh-oh.
about Jaden Daniels. And I think Cliff Kingsbury, it's not necessarily an it's more of a meh. Like Cliff Kingsbury, he's a fine offensive coordinator.
Mm.
But I said fine. Like I didn't say good. He's fine.
On this show, he's not. He's not on this show.
He doesn't do anything that's super creative. He's going to get the tight ends involved. Zach Ertz is his number one boy, and he's going to stay involved there. And I don't know how much Ben Sinnott we're actually going to see. I think the concern all offseason for Jahan Dotson or for anyone not named Terry McLaurin is that we don't know if Jaden Daniels can actually support more than one pass catcher in that offense. That's why I haven't really been targeting any of these guys in Dynasty or redraft. And I know there's a Ben Sinnott hive out there. Jagger, I feel like you're their leader. I don't know. Are you still in on Ben Sinnott? Has that changed?
Bro, it's been a long time. We could talk about that when you're done.
Okay. It's been a minute since we've last talked. So yeah, man, like the Dyami Brown thing, he's fine to take a shot on. He was a guy, like, he hurt me good. I really liked Dyami Brown coming out of North Carolina. Thought he'd be a really fun deep target, kind of one of those better and best ball type guys. I think we are going to have a few people just maybe doing a little too much and trading for Dyami Brown right now when I just don't even know that this Commanders offense is going to support more than one running back and one receiver and a rushing quarterback. And that's about it. So unless you're Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin, maybe even not Terry, or Brian Robinson, I don't know that I really want anyone on this Commanders team because I think we have not seen a finished product. I think we're seeing the start of something. Dyami Brown is not necessarily a guy that I think is going to be a part of that product a year from now.
And guys, this is a Dynasty show. Don't you dare bring up Austin Eckler in the comments. You know why. Just you already know why. Do not bring him up. Jeff, Dyami Brown, do you care?
I mean, if somebody will give me a draft pick for Dyami Brown, I care about the acquisition price. If he's available on waivers in a deep league right now, I certainly would make that waiver move. If I can get a draft pick for him, I would make that move. There's a name still lingering out there. Brandon Ayuk has, there's been a little bit more of maybe traction involving the Commanders than previously. If I were to go down the rabbit hole, what I think happened was Ayuk wanted to play the year out, and the Commanders were kind of his preferred choice to come and as a free agent and play with Jaden Daniels. And then the Commanders maybe got a little bit nervous on actually a trade happening with Pittsburgh or actually a contract happening with the 49ers and decided, okay, maybe we do need to step into this. Maybe we are not able to just get him for free in free agency. That's my tinfoil hat conspiracy of what is going on here. I think that Alfredo did a good job talking about what this offense is going to look like. From what we've seen so far from Jaden Daniels, it's a lot of one read stuff. It's a lot of Terry McLaurin is the primary, the secondary, whatever you want to make it on this route, and we'll try to protect him up. And if he's not there, then let's dump it off to Zach Ertz and get the ball out of your hands. I think that would be my expectation. But again, in Dynasty, everything's relative to acquisition price. And if you're in a deep league, Dyami Brown's still somehow sitting on your waivers, you certainly have to add him to your roster and hope it breaks in that direction.
Guys, this is Cliff Kingsbury. Go to Twitter if you have it and look up DeAndre Hopkins Cardinals route chart. Just look it up. It's floated around there for a while, this graphic. He never leaves the left side of the field. Right. So like you're just gonna have Terry McLaurin and that's it, and Brian Robinson. Like that's who you want, Jaden Daniels, just like Alfredo said.
The annoying thing though, and like I know I said that he's fine, it's because he's fine for fantasy football, and like that's the annoying thing is we can have bad coaches and bad players that can still get you production for fantasy football. And that's more annoying for guys like us that can just look at the game and say, oh, this is a bad coach, this is bad strategy, or that player is not up to the standard that we would want. but they can still produce for fantasy football. And that's where like the lines get blurred. And Jeff, I think you hit the nail on the head there talking about like just what value can you get for Dyami Brown in return. A player like this needs to be someone that you look at more transactionally than anything. This isn't Madden. You're not developing the player. You don't get to make them better year after year. It needs to be something that's transactional.
Yep. And guys, to give you an actual like a actionable trade tactic, go find the Jahan Dotson guy who's down bad and isn't like me and knows the reality of that situation and say, "Will you give me a third or fourth round pick for Dyami Brown?" And then boom, you've just profited. Come and thank me later in the comments and then talk about the trade and we may bring it up on the next show. So with that being said, we'll talk about an actual asset that we really do care about, and it's a faller. And I ignored that. I wasn't going to actually put him as a faller, and then I went to keep trade cut. And Anthony Richardson's value actually fell because of 2 drives, guys. 2 drives. So we'll kick it to you, Alfredo. What are we doing here? He's a football guy's QB9. He's a keep trade cut QB9. Do you think the 2 drives in the preseason that arguably could be miscommunication, do you think he's garbage? Should we just dump him, sell him? Is he Justin Fields?
No, I don't think he's Justin Fields. I think that the ceiling can potentially be higher. One, I don't think we should be doing anything based off of preseason. Like that's just silly. Don't do that. But I think that his quarterback 9 ranking could be a little justified. I mean, let me ask you this, Jagger. Do you think Anthony Richardson is the starting quarterback for the Colts 4 years from now on a second contract?
To be honest, I think it's just as good as anybody who's not ahead of him, to be honest, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
the only thing that I've done is I've cooled off and I would take Kyler Murray every time over Anthony Richardson. Used to, I would flip-flop, but I would just take Kyler Murray every time. But
Yeah.
like, I mean, what are you going to say about Drake May? Caleb Williams could flop. I don't believe that, but I'm
Yeah.
just saying.
I think it's less about people thinking that the player might flop, and I think it's more and more people getting worried about injury history and stuff like that. And I think there's too many people that say I play Dynasty in a 2 or 3 year window, but then they say that quarterback may not be around in 4 or 5 years because of XYZ injury. And I think that we oftentimes don't practice what we preach when it comes to valuing these players. And I can look right now at the Dynasty rankings and say, I feel a lot more comfortable with Jordan Love as my Dynasty quarterback than Anthony Richardson as my Dynasty quarterback. Do I have the same upside? No. And I think that's what happens, especially at the quarterback position. I don't know that as many people are going for upside at the quarterback spot in Dynasty. Whereas, I mean, in redraft, that's almost solely what you're going for there. And so like, that's where I think like the quarterback position gets a little skewed. I think too many people think like extra long-term, and there's really only a few quarterbacks that actually stick around for that long anyways. So I'm not against it. I'm very, this is probably not the answer you want. It's such a cop out. I'm very lukewarm with Anthony Richardson. I think he's one of those guys that if you have him, you're sticking with him because you want to see how high that ceiling is. And if you don't have him, it's probably because you didn't believe enough in him to begin with. So you're probably not going to go out and trade too much for him now. And I hate that it's such a cop-out answer, but I think that's kind of where we're at with Anthony Richardson. If there's a guy who can do it, Shane Steichen can help him with this offense, and Adonai Mitchell being on that team and all the weapons that he has. But I'm not going to fault someone for saying that they'd take, like you said, Kyler Murray over Anthony Richardson at this point.
Yep. And like, don't feel bad. Like, Dynasty is a gray area. That's why we got to talk strategy. And
Yeah,
it's not
and I mean, that's where we have to live. Like we're not that far removed from all of us saying Trevor Lawrence is a top 5 Dynasty quarterback, and then now looking at the rankings, he's a top 12 Dynasty quarterback. Like
he still could be. Like, that's the thing. I don't think the door's shut on that.
Yeah, he absolutely could be. He can. I mean, Dak was up there not too long ago. Drake May could be up there by mid-season. Like, there's so much that can go on, and that's why I say like we trip ourselves up by looking at where is this guy going to be in 4 years, as opposed to like everything could be different in 6 weeks. So what are we talking about? Dynasty is so impossibly impatient with actions, movements, trades. But then we try to justify values with really, really long-term evaluations, and we never actually stick to that, which is just, it's annoying to me.
And to kick it to you, Jeff, one thing that Alfredo said everything but essentially is that quarterbacks have even bad quarterbacks drafted top 5 have insulated value, guys. You have time to get out on Anthony Richardson. Last season was a wash. He's basically on his rookie year right now. So Jeff, do you think that you should, like Alfredo said, just look at it like he's gonna at least hold value? Justin Fields held value till like what feels like yesterday at Dynasty.
Justin Fields would probably be the Chicago Bears quarterback if they didn't fall backwards into Caleb Williams. I mean, let's be realistic about that. If they pull that 10th pick in that draft, are they going to replace Justin Fields with Bo Nix? I'm skeptical they would have done that. So I think that that's looking at that. You're in a system here with Shane Steichen, a player, a coach that we believe in. You've got talent around Anthony Richardson. This isn't like a Kenny Pickett situation where this is a back end first round. And even then the ceiling is maybe if everything goes right, this guy could maybe be quarterback 12. If everything goes right, Anthony Richardson can be quarterback 1. And that's why you're holding on to the upside and you're keeping that there because he has that within his range of outcomes. I think overall, we're just bored and most of our teams are drafted and we're just trying to figure out something else to talk about. And then when you have a practice like he did, the Bengals said some mean things about him. Oh my God. And I mean, you just need to look at the way social media is hyper reactive to Juju Smith-Schuster signing with the Chiefs and Tim Patrick might get cut or traded. And Samaji, I mean, come on, what are we doing, people? Take a break, take a breath. We'll have so much football in a couple of days. We're all ready for it. We're all itching for it. We don't need to be hyper reactive and just go to extreme on every little piece of news.
Yep, you nailed it. It's just like it was 2 drives, guys, and and we knew that he needed work. You guys just thought that like, well, he played 4 NFL games and then was out an entire season and only had 1 full off season. So like, why isn't he Josh Allen? That's just like it's gonna take a little bit. And that offense is filled with young people. Michael Pittman is the only vet. Josh Downs was hurt a lot of last season as well. Adonai Mitchell is a rookie. Like Jelani Woods is a myth. I don't even know if he's real because he can't even be on the field. So like,
I mean, Kylan Granson is out there with the first team and getting targets. Like, I don't even know if Jelani Woods, like you said, I don't know if he exists for the Colts anymore.
Yeah,
you moved past it pretty quickly there, but I think Josh Downs is a really underrated key there because I think Downs is a player that was really growing in comfort with Richardson. And when you look at the way Downs plays, I think that he was a safety blanket type player for Richardson where, this guy's going to be open. Like this is supposed to be, Pittman's my primary here, but it all else goes to fail. I know Josh Downs is going to shake somebody and get open and he's going to be a direction I can go with the ball. Now you've got an Adonai Mitchell that they're trying to work in the slot because they don't have another slot receiver on that roster. And Adonai Mitchell should be taking Alec Pierce's job, not filling in for Josh Downs. And I think that that's a really underrated point that has kind of been lost in this conversation.
Yep. I agree 100%. And like I made the Justin Fields comp. What should encourage you if you think Justin Fields sucks and you're worried that Anthony Richardson's another Justin Fields, Anthony Richardson has like 3 times the situation that Justin Fields ever had. He's got all these fun targets we just mentioned. You couldn't do that for Fields after DJ Moore, and that was only with 1 season. They've really built a good foundation. So you just need to be patient, guys. With that being said, we will move on to our next player. He's a riser. We talked about him, I think last week, so we'll keep it a little brief here. And I really would just get Alfredo's piece on here. Is Carson Steele. He's been a big riser, still not ranked on Football Guys yet, but he's RB72. Like I said, a lot of these new guys, they popped up literally last week, folks, so we'll get around to it. Do you think that this is legit, like he might actually have in-season value? And then if he does have value, do you think he's going to maintain that value, or do you think you should move on for him while he pops?
I think that we do this every year. We get really excited about one player on the Chiefs, and it's usually a running back. And I'm old enough to remember when we were all getting really excited about Louis Rees-Zammit, the rugby player, and Deneric Prince and his great athletic testing scores. And not to say that like it's not me throwing any shade at Carson Steele, but it's just so hard to envision him having a big role on the Chiefs. I do think it's very possible. I think that the RB2 role on the Kansas City Chiefs is valuable if he can earn that. I know there's not much competition there. Like, does Clyde Edwards-Helaire even exist anymore? I mean, there's a lot of questions that can go there. I think that what I would do just in particular is just capitalize on the hype right now. And if you can get a 3rd round pick for a Carson Steele, like I'll take that right now. If there's anyone that's just really into the hype on him, just go for it. I think we're kind of wish casting that he's going to become something there in Kansas City, especially with how many receivers they have. They've tried Kadarius Toney at running back. Isaiah Pacheco is really the workhorse there. It's a great story. I want to believe, but dynasty football is pretty transactional. I think that's how we need to treat this one.
Jeff, what about you? Do you think that he has a real role, or do you think it's like with Alfredo, like said, you just need to just go out there and see what you can get right now?
Who's the Jerick McKinnon role on the Chiefs?
That's my question, because I'm
Who's
a little bit more bullish.
Who's the goal line back on the Chiefs?
That might be Pacheco. Like,
is it not Pacheco? Like,
that's always been my problem with Pacheco. He's like,
you have
I don't know.
It
seems irresponsible for us to I don't know. Maybe I'm being too much of a downer here, but it seems a little irresponsible for us to like get super excited about a guy in preseason and say that he automatically goes into a Jerick McKinnon role. Like, maybe that role just doesn't exist anymore because he's not Jerick McKinnon. They could easily bring him back too.
He's more of a so at certain times, like he popped for me a couple weeks ago. And like they were talking about him basically being a fullback / tight end / running back, and Andy Reid jokingly said, "Well, I might add the fullback back to my offense because Carson Steele has been this good," and that was multiple weeks ago, and he's done nothing but perform again and again. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been out with an injury. I think Deneric Prince, it just hasn't really happened in terms of they love the athleticism, but in terms of understanding how to play the position of running back, it's night and day difference between what Carson Steele adds there. And I think that when you look at what he would bring, it wouldn't be the Jerick McKinnon role in terms of him being the pass catcher that you're going to get out in space and try to create in that direction. It would probably be more of a personal protector, fullback / dump off, but the goal line back, that's where if he is getting those passing downs as a personal protector for Patrick Mahomes and they like that power in there and he's getting goal line touches over Isaiah Pacheco, and then Isaiah Pacheco gets relegated to kind of a between the tens type player, then you're in trouble, I think, on Pacheco's value, on him paying off, and especially the way that he's really been steamed up in a lot of different places.
Yeah, I think he's a hold right now because I think that you might still want to move him, but I think that his value can go up because, again, like everyone loves Pacheco. I just don't think he's as good as everyone loves. Everyone loves to watch him run. I think actually you have said this on a pod, Alfredo. It's like, what does Pacheco do besides we think he's fun to watch because he high knees? He's not.
Yeah. He runs like he hates the ground.
Yeah, he's not particularly good at the goal line. He's a liability in pass protection, and he's only just now kind of sort of maybe gotten going in the receiving game. So like for me, Carson Steele is a hold. Don't go out and overpay or buy him. Don't go like spending seconds or that's a bit much. If someone offers you a second, probably take that. Like don't say like, well, Jagger said hold. Like if the price is right, do it. But
so what's best case scenario for a Carson Steele? Because if I'm saying that I would just trade him right now for a third if someone offered. What's best case scenario that stops me from making that trade? Are we thinking that he ends up in a Jerick McKinnon-esque role or like a split backfield with Isaiah Pacheco? Is that ceiling for him?
8 points per game with spike weeks.
Am I ever starting that? That's where that's where I'm at.
Depends how many of those spikes come in, and depends how your roster is constructed on a running back too.
Sheesh. I don't know that I'm there, guys. I don't know that I'm getting Carson Steele anywhere near my RB2 or RB3 on my team. Like I'd have to be really struggling at the running back spot to be considering him there. And even at that point, if my team's that bad, I'm calling it a wash on the season and I want as many picks as possible. So
you should see my dynasty rosters. Like receivers are stacked. And I've got a stapler at my RB2.
A stapler and Velus Jones. Got it.
Yeah, exactly. That's yeah. We'll move to our next guy. Ricky Pearsall is a big faller on Key Trade Cut. I remember that we football guys, I think always had him around wide receiver 45. Keep Troy Cut had him at like I think the wide receiver 37 at one point. Like he was like low end wide receiver 33. But I think speaking of Alfredo being a wet blanket, just kidding. Like we with the proverbial wet blanket got over Ricky Pearsall. And me, I just said like I like him. I still think he can be someone. The 49ers have proven they're patient with these wide receivers or just players in general to develop. So he's a hold. But at least in season, I think the buy window is here, folks. Jeff, where are you at on here? Like you are always one where you don't think it's this year, but maybe next year. But the buy window, that's happening, right?
Yeah, and as long as Brandon Ayuk has not signed a long-term extension with the 49ers, I think you're both it's Schrodinger's cat. You're both dead and alive here with Ricky Pearsall's value, because we know the way Dynasty works. If Ayuk is off this roster, everybody's going to be on Pearsall, and you're going to have immediate returns even before he even plays a snap or even before he does anything productive. So that's there. He's been hurt, which is a big part of it. And he's been hurt, and you've got a team that wants to win the Super Bowl with a team that they trust what Juwan Jennings adds to the offense, and Brandon Ayuk hasn't been there. So they've been kind of working their offense without Brandon Ayuk in it, and Pearsall hasn't been in practice to be able to take advantage of that.
Agreed. I know on my contenders, I've put him up because some people still really like him, and like I think he's a buy. So it's more like, what can I get that it helps me win now? That is of value. Like if I can add something on top to go get like a DJ Moore or like Deontay Johnson's real cheap, then I will go do that. But I'm not gonna undersell him or anything like that. So Alfredo, to you, what do you think the price is for Ricky Pearsall, knowing that it's good like a redshirt season?
I think the problem is that even though we want to say there's a buy low window, how many people that just drafted Pearsall are saying, "Oh my god, I got to get him off of my team, and I've got to sell him now"? Like, if you just drafted him, you kind of knew this was going to be a redshirt season anyways, unless Brandon Ayuk got traded, and you knew that there was that inherent risk when you drafted him in the first place. I don't know that the shoulder injury right now changes that. I don't know that the Brandon Ayuk drama changes that all too much. So, I don't think that the Ricky Pearsall manager is willing to trade him if I can just go and trade Jagger. You've looked at the 2025 class. I haven't yet, but I from what I've heard, it's not as good as this current class, but that feels like that's always the rub on every next class is that don't hold on to your picks for next year. Get them this year. Um, I guess a 25 second works for Pearsall if I want to go and buy him, but I don't know that anyone's going to be letting Ricky Pearsall go. I love him, and I think that honestly he's worth a late first if I'm going to be aggressive to try to go get him, because this is a very talented player with first round draft pedigree on a very, very good offense. And I don't want to say that offense is a ticking time bomb, but I think that they are just one injury season away from maybe not having George Kittle anymore at an older age, from not having Christian McCaffrey playing at his normal productive self. They are one blow up argument from not having Brandon Ayuk on the roster anymore, one injury away from not having Deebo Samuel. Like, it sounds a little too sky is falling chicken little, but the 49ers are really being held together for these Super Bowl runs here. And if even just one thing changes, Ricky Pearsall gets input into that roster. So I loved him right after the draft. I still love him now. I'm willing to be aggressive on him. I just don't know if the Pearsall manager is willing to trade him away.
Yeah, and I think the scenario I said is the only way that I would like tell like our audience to go trade him away. It's like Ricky Pearsall was cheap enough that a lot of contenders were able to draft him because he was late first. I got him in the middle of the second round in a lot of places. So like anyone can have him. If you're a contender and you might want a little bit more competitive depth, go get someone that's going to be good like Deontay Johnson or maybe Romeo Dubs, something like that, plus Romeo Dubs plus. Go get someone like that that can help you win now, but don't just sell them because you're going to freak out. Because again, the 49ers are almost an outlier organization for how they're built, and they're willing to develop players because they have so much talent. We'll move on to another Alfredo favorite, Javonte Williams. You've been beating the drum for him. Javonte Williams is a player that every year I regret the trades I didn't take. I said last episode that I regretted not having Bo Nix, and Bo Nix and the Saints are kind of a buy for me now. Like Cortland Sutton for his price, I'll take him in a contender for some depth. I like Bo Nix. I'm in on the Broncos now. I think that maybe Russ really did suck, man, and he couldn't buy into the system. Um, and now that Javonte has a quarterback, he has a coach, maybe there's more scoring opportunities. And right now, Football Guys has him RB20. That's a little bit more bullish than Keep Trade Cut at RB23. Is he someone that you would really be willing to roll in and go buy or spend like a late first or late second on him, Alfredo? Or is that too much? Or is it more like a player situation, player for
It
player?
would it would really depend on how competitive I'm going to be this year. If I'm saying that I'm one good, RB2 or flex piece away from competing for a championship, then yeah, I'll go and make a move for Javonte. I don't, as much as I love him, I don't know that I'm willing to give a first for Javonte. Maybe, and once again, I haven't looked at the 2025 class, so I don't know. You could tell me right now, like, hey, not a good class, go and make that trade, and then cool, I'm willing to do that and make the championship run. The thing for me is it's not a talent thing for Javonte. It's not even an injury thing for Javonte. It's that he's going to be in a contract year. We have no idea where he's going next. And to kind of, I don't even know if it's best case scenario that he ends up on the Broncos next year, or where could he be? Does he end up in some sort of new running back by committee? I think something ideal would be, okay, the Cowboys realize they messed up this year. They didn't really get a running back, and they go and just sign a Javonte for cheap. I think there's a lot of directions that this could go, but Javonte's still 24, man.
Yeah.
And like, that's what really sticks out to me. It's just, it has me going back and forth. Like, he's still young. He's still super talented. I get leery about running backs changing teams, around their second contract and having injury history. There's just a lot there. You don't typically see them at their best anymore. So I do think that we are going to get ourselves a big year from Javonte this year. I love him in redraft. I do think that he's a guy that if you get to around week 5, week 6, and he's pulling a Brian Robinson where he's like a top 5 running back, I'm selling him all day to a championship contender. Or if I am the championship contender, I'm keeping him. That's where I'm at.
Where are you at on him, Jeff? Are you bullish on him, or are you just kind of the same? What do you expect for him to come in this season?
He's going to be good. I think that he's definitely turned it around, and then that's one of the biggest things. I know R.C. Salami talked about him from the spring, and basically maybe out of shape might have been where he was, but and then there was the report that came out that he might get cut, and I think that maybe some of that might have been trying to light a fire through the media, was maybe the approach on that. They have a lot of talent there, and Audric Estime was looking really good to start out. And so, yeah, you got a young rookie that you drafted that's pushing for a power back role. Sean Payton didn't draft Javonte Williams. And so I think that those are all considerations on what happened initially. I think now we were getting healthy Javonte Williams. And I think that that's easily the best back in Denver. I think when you look at all their pieces, especially having a rookie quarterback, you really need that running back to be a key role of that offense. And I think Javonte Williams is capable of doing that. That being said, if you're holding Javonte Williams in Dynasty, you've kind of been sitting and waiting for a sell window for a couple years now at this point, because we never really gotten it. I mean, we had the injuries. There was that one great game against the Chiefs where he just went off a couple years ago. But other than that, we've really just been waiting for the guy that went in the middle of a lot of first round rookie drafts when he was coming out. So yeah, I think that if you are inclined to really believe and see what else really believes in your league and see if somebody will go and make that offer, make that trade. And I think that this is a situation where if you can grab a future first, and maybe you can grab a back that is a little bit more underrated, a Gus Edwards or something like that, that can kind of still chip in some production and keep you relevant at the spot, you might be at that point with Javonte Williams. Talk about him leaving in free agency. I think there's a lot of places. Dallas would be great. Cincinnati, we don't know what their running back situation is going to look like. Cleveland long term, we don't know if Nick Chubb comes back. So I would say that there's much better scenarios for him potentially in free agency than returning to a Denver offense that we don't know if Bo Nix is anything yet.
He reminds me of DeAndre Swift. He's like someone that's like he's going to be like the next like the Jonathan Taylor kind of how we thought that Swift was going to be the next CMC,
Yeah.
and it's just never happened. And then like Alfredo said, it's second contract, and we know that's like that's a risk, man. And he's been injured. How much is a team willing to pay for him? And then what team is he going to go to? Dallas, heck yeah, man. I hope you paid a second for him because you probably got a really good player. But is he going to, get Tennessee Titan, Tony Pollard? And, well, here's another timeshare. That's a huge risk. We'll end it with our last guy, Kendre Miller, and we'll keep it brief, guys. We already kind of said it. The value as reflected this at Keep Trade Cut. He's dead, guys. Give it up. Dennis Allen, Dennis Allen, the only thing he hasn't done is just like insult his mom at this point. Like how much more disrespectful could you get to your own player to where that relation, like, does Kendre Miller even want to play for Dennis Allen anymore? That's my question.
Dude, Dennis Allen he's the Gordon Ramsay clip or like the meme where he's yelling at the adults in MasterChef and you effing donkey, and then like he sees a little kid, he's like, oh no, oh dear, oh gorgeous. Like that's him with Taysom Hill, but then he's yelling at Kendre Miller and every other player in the Saints. Like he hates every single player in the New Orleans Saints not named Taysom Hill. It's absolutely crazy.
The real question is, does Dennis Allen want to be a Saint? Does he like? Does it sound like he
I
wants
feel
to...
like he's one of those guys. If this team does not play well this year, he will lose the locker room fast, and it will be very easy for team captains to go to ownership or to whomever and have Dennis Allen out the door quick. We could see a Clint Kubiak interim head coach midway through the season if things are not going well for Derek Carr and the Saints.
Yep.
So
Jeff, anything?
I'm the old guy here, and so culture has changed. Football has changed. Lots of things. Dennis Allen is a very old school coach. And I'm old enough that I remember when Bill Parcells was calling Terry Glenn saying I don't know if she's going to practice or not. And I think that there are things going on with Kendre Miller off the field with Dennis Allen, that Dennis Allen is an old school football coach, that he's very frustrated by a player that whether he believes he should be practicing or not is not practicing. And I don't know. I mean, I know Alfredo, your Miami Dolphins are dealing with a little bit of Odell Beckham situation where the team's not quite sure if Odell Beckham actually wants to play football. And I think that there's questions about that with Kendre Miller. And I'm not justifying it by any means what Dennis Allen does. Like, no, we've changed. We moved away from that. And yeah, he deserves to get flamed for it. But at the same time, I think that there's a little push-pull. Like, it's not... I mean, he says very nice things about Taysom Hill, so...
I mean, I just think, like, for Odell Beckham Jr., he went to Miami to retire, man. He's just like, this is a cool place to die. Like, my career anyway.
The tough thing with Kendre Miller, man, is like we don't know what we don't know, right? There's always these intangibles, these behind the scenes, and it's always like I'm always willing to be like, but this player is so good, the coach has to give him a shot, and then you find out like, oh, he's showing up late to meetings, he's not going to treatments, he's not doing what he's supposed to do, and that could very well be happening, but we just don't know. Right now, I'm almost willing to give Kendre Miller the benefit of the doubt because Dennis Allen appears to hate everyone, like even Chris Olave. Like he's had enough to say about him, and to me, like that's wild too. So I don't know. I think we could just find out that Dennis Allen's coaching style doesn't work. Could that be stoking the flames with Kendre Miller? It might. I don't know that I'm necessarily going out and looking to buy him. I asked this question to myself the other day because I loved Kendre Miller's film coming out of TCU. Thought he could be really fun. I think we all predicted the downfall of Alvin Kamara. That hasn't quite happened, at least for fantasy terms. If we are going to see any type of Kendre Miller value, it's probably next year. So I don't know. Like if there's a time to buy, I would say it's right now while he is running back 52 on Keep Trade Cut, and you can just go and get him for nothing and just see what happens. Like a year from now, do I want Kendre Miller or Carson Steele? Like, is that a trade we're maybe looking at here?
If I could get Carson Steele for Kendre Miller, I'm doing that. I want out.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's just that like let's put it this way, I've never liked Kendre Miller. I didn't like him as a prospect. I didn't get it. When he's with the Saints, I'm like, I was like, Alvin Kamara's game translates. He's got old man game. He'll sit there and catch passes forever. Like Darren Sproles did it forever. He wasn't even fast anymore.
Yeah,
But
he's got the Kobe game. He can just take jump shots until he's 50. Like that's what it is.
So like
One
I
of the
never got it.
Yeah, in Dynasty, one of the most difficult things about this time of year is these rookies that we were so excited about, and we are planning on them shaping our Dynasty roster. Like half of them can't play, and that's the thing to always keep in mind with a young player that hasn't really shown it yet. And half of these rookies can't play.
Mm. Well, we'll end it right there, guys. Sorry to depress you, Saints fans, but as always, guys, like and subscribe. If you guys have any future trades, our next episode's a trade show. Just go ahead and pop those in the comments, and I will start pulling those. And we'll again, even if you're listening on Spotify or whatever, like I think Spotify even has a comment function now, or Apple, I will go look at those trades in there as well, guys. This is why Football Guys pays me a very medium, modest salary, is to help you guys win. As always, I'm Jagger May, and with me is Jeff. We'll have Alfredo back for our trade episode, and we'll see you guys next time.